Our own country, the United States, was founded on this principle of refuge, a place where people could come fleeing persecution and exercise their fundamental rights in freedom and dignity.
I believe that we're to help the stranger and we're to help those who are suffering. This is part of who we are. It's part of our genetic code as Americans.
When it comes to our commitment to refugees, I think we need to constantly reaffirm it. We often forget that there's so many in our midst who would not be here and contributing so much to this country were it not for our nation's historic commitment to refugees, and we should renew that commitment every day.
I was born in 1976 in Laos. During the time that I was born, there's a war going on. Our village was burned. There's rebels, taking over and whatnot. So my mom, my sister and I, we left our home and was placed in a refugee camp nearby. We were there for a while waiting to get sponsored to come to America. And one day our name was on its list to be relocated with my aunt and uncle in Nashville, Tennessee.
I was working as a news reporter in Sierra Leone. I was working for the national television station. I was reporting on the war. Remember, in the 90s, we had this decade-long war that ravaged the country. The area in which I was living was under siege. I had to go into hiding. I came to this country in 1999 on the 1st of August. Human Rights Force found me a pro bono attorney. I was able to gain political asylum status here.
The Refugee Act of 1980 moved us from a refugee response by our nation that was case by case, group by group, made by political decisions. An act of Congress was required for each group to a uniform standard in which the United States and other countries were treating refugees the same way.
This would be a system where we would identify people in foreign countries whose rights were at risk and who were seeking to flee, and would grant them refugee status and bring them to the United States under certain numerical limits that the Congress would establish. But really an important addition to that is this concept of asylum, providing asylum, whether it's for political, religious, or other grounds, for people who are in the United States or seeking to enter the United States, and to protect them from deportation.
Before 1980, our definition of refugee was limited to people fleeing communist countries. We also didn't include in it mandatory obligation not to return a refugee.
Senator Kennedy was the author of the Refugee Act of 1980. He felt very, very strongly that passage of this act gave us a greater moral voice around the world in the protection and assistance to refugees. Because if we were willing to live by the international standard, we had greater standing to say to others, you should live by that too.
I thought that law was particularly timely because it coincided with President Carter's commitment to human rights. And human rights is not only a question of exporting democracy abroad, it's also a question of how you assist people who have been deprived of these rights, need asylum, need to have refugee status, and the law regularized some of the ambiguities pertaining to these issues.
This was a great bipartisan moment, and there was a recognition that this was not a question of ideology. It was a question of our humanity, our common humanity.
My wife is here, my kids are here, they're going to school here. They have all the opportunities that this country can afford.
I've been a police officer for 6 years. Just the fact of, giving back the community, helping people is the main thing. I'm honored by doing that.
I hold a master's degree in global affairs from one of the leading universities in the world, New York University. I now work for the Associated Press.
In 2003, met my wife. Been married for 3 years, have my son. He's 2 years old now, so that's a blessing too.
I have to say, when I look back 30 years and how much our policy has changed, how much the infrastructure has developed, I think there's an extraordinary amount to be proud of. That being said, there are enormous challenges and problems that have developed in the years since.
I've seen over the past 15 years, really, a slow erosion of the protections for refugees in our laws and administrative procedures in this country. There have been restrictions placed on access to the asylum procedure. So people who come here have several preliminary hurdles put in their way before they can even raise a claim and say, I'm a refugee, I need protection. And they're met at the airport with handcuffs and taken to what looks to any observer to be a prison.
These people are fleeing because they have been victims of having their consciences violated, and no one profits from being in prison-like conditions. And many of these people have been traumatized before they ever get to us.
The whole point of the Refugee Act was to give people access to a process where their claims to protection could be fairly assessed.
Our moral basis for this country is really built upon helping those who are in distress and providing a haven for those who are persecuted and providing opportunity and freedom. So, if not us, who?
America has been a country created by immigrants. Immigrants to America, immigrants from somewhere. And a great many of these immigrants were the products of oppression and violence, and we can't forget that. And America, by opening its doors to them, was not only being true to its own moral values, but it was also a beneficiary.
We are, as a people, I think, hugely enriched emotionally, morally, financially, and in every other way by the strength and resilience that refugees bring to our society.